Hello, welcome to the second final module of Mental Wholeness, Foundations for Consistent Creativity and Connection. This is Brianna McNerney here, and I say this is the second final module because it's an additional module that I'm adding after the first run through of mental wholeness as a group. So if you're in this Facebook group, then you have access to the original final two modules, which were communication and connection and creative action. Those two modules moving forward, once we leave this Facebook home, they're not going to be part of the mental wholeness content. But this module, Trust, is going to replace creative action as the final module. I think sometimes as projects move forward, this happens. It's something that you can be aware of yourself when you move forward and create amazing things, services, projects. It's always good to leave a little bit of room to learn and grow and shift your direction as you're inspired to do so, which actually makes a lot of sense given what we've talked about with creative action. When an inspiration hits, it's a really good idea to follow that. And that is what this module is. I think that trust is such an important piece of this puzzle. It's really wrapping everything up in a bow, or in a hug, rather. Without trust, we have nothing. And a lot of people will say that about relationships, and it's true in our relationship with ourself more than anything. Trust is obviously a huge issue when it comes to trusting the process, trusting the universe, trusting other people who are in our lives. That's clearly very important and something that I cover more in depth and longer term one-on-one services with people. But what we're really focused on today is the root of all of that, which is building trust within yourself. Because without trust in yourself, it's my thought that it's impossible to really fully have trust in all of those other ways that are so important to leading a life that feels really good and supported. So that is what we're doing here today. Thank you for being with me, whether you're watching here live or if you're watching in the replay. I'm so grateful to have your time and attention. Always feel free to leave questions or comments as they come up in the comment box. I really love to hear from you, see what's coming up, answer any questions that you have. That is literally what I am here for. I will say, if you're watching the replay, tag me in your comments and questions just to make sure that I see what you're posting, because I might not always see. And I apologize for the dings that are going off. I'm getting some notifications, but I swear I'm not multitasking and messaging with people. I am 100% here with you right now. So why don't I invite everybody here watching, whether you're with me live or in the replay, to really, if you're able to, take a couple deep breaths, center yourself here. Bring yourself here into the room. And let us move forward with what we're here for today, which is trust. I do have a few notes, but I'm feeling inspired to do things a little bit differently today and trust that the right words will come. It feels in alignment with what we're doing to really go off script a little bit. So I do have a few things that I'm definitely going to touch on, like why trust is so important. We're definitely going to talk about how to cultivate trust in yourself. And I do have a little exercise prepared for the end so that you can start to plug into that feeling of trust right away and have an idea of how you can plug into that in the future. And if any other things come up, I will just add them in as I see fit. I am going to try and keep it to an hour today. I know the videos have gotten a little bit long in here, so I will say when we move to a new home, I'm really going to be trying to shorten all of these videos to 30 minutes without compromising the quality of the content or the thoroughness of the content, just to really make it more concise so that you guys can really access them in an easy, quick way. So please know if the length of these videos have been great for you at all, then I am planning to address that. We are still very much going to move to a new home off of Facebook. So tell me if you're here with me. Feel free to give me a little hi, even if you are not watching live. I would love to hear that you're here, hear that you are here. And I'm sure that if you're here, I just love you so much. So hello, and let's get started. So I said before, obviously trust is a huge topic. It comes up in so many ways in our lives. And the root of all of it is being able to trust yourself. So that is really where our focus is today. Hey, Amanda. Oh, I adore you too. Thank you. So the root of all different types of trust in our life, I believe, is our ability to trust ourselves internally. The ability to trust that we will be able to overcome any obstacle that we are faced with, essentially. The ability to trust that we can meet all of our own needs. These are what build a sense of trust in ourselves that help us feel really safe and supported moving forward, without which it's really difficult to feel that safety and support in other areas of our lives. Switching over my internet connection really quick to make sure it's good. If you ever experience any issue with these videos, please just feel free to let me know in the comments. I can tell that it's getting a little bit spotty, so if you lose me, I will be back, and I will certainly try to fill in any holes that exist in the recording. Hopefully there won't be any. Thank you for your persistence. So that's what we're focused on building today, is this sense of trust in ourselves that we can overcome any obstacle that is thrown our way, and that we have the ability to meet our own needs. That starts with listening to our own needs, because we can't actually meet our own needs if we don't know what those needs are. And we have been working on the ability to do that all throughout this course. So what have we been through so far? We've worked on acceptance, accepting all parts of ourselves, all of the emotions that exist, accepting our situation as it is before we make it better. We've worked on body buzz. Body buzz is a hugely important topic, and it does matter big time when it comes to trust, and I'll come back to that in a minute. We worked on clarity. Clarity is also very important, because there's a sense of needing to trust that our desires are coming to us. That's an area that trust is required too. And to really be able to trust that legitimately, we need to know what our desires are. So that was what clarity was all about, was really connecting to and clarifying, understanding your desires and what you're working towards. Beliefs was another module that we added. God, I wish there was a way to silence notifications. I'm sorry for all of these beeps that are going on. If anybody knows a way to silence notifications, please tell me. We worked on beliefs. Beliefs was an extra module, again, that we added. That was the last one that we did. And it's important to be aware of what you believe in each and every situation so that you're choosing deliberately beliefs that support you in moving towards your desires, as opposed to beliefs that are keeping you stuck and holding you back. Because usually the default beliefs that we have are keeping us where we are, keeping us safely in the realm of the known, and not allowing us to move forward to new things, to experience new things. So we talked about beliefs. After that, energy comes next. We talked about energy and lining up ourselves energetically, both to connect with the earth that we are a part of and to connect to guidance, to the universe, and feel energetically aligned so that things are flowing through us, which is so important. And then we talked about emotional alchemy. Trust is super related to emotional alchemy because emotional alchemy requires us to go into places that we've been socialized not to trust about ourselves. In a patriarchal culture, we are really bred to trust the masculine drive. We are told to trust the conscious mind, the systems around us, the way that everybody else is doing things, as opposed to fully trusting our own internal guidance. Most people don't get that encouragement growing up to really fully trust their internal guidance above anything else. And for emotional alchemy, it can feel really scary to go into that place if you've been socialized to not look at it your whole life, to distrust the emotional side of the spectrum. So there's a really big need to trust in yourself that you'll be able to pull yourself back out by following through the emotional alchemy process that I gave you. And while we're talking about it, I would just love to throw out there how important it is to take the emotional alchemy process through all the way to completion. I mentioned this multiple times, both in the emotional alchemy workbook and in that video itself. If you are feeling like you're getting lost in an emotional roller coaster, or you're getting lost in the woods when emotions come up, you aren't taking the process through to completion. Like really, 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 truly, you aren't. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. Because there is always something to learn. There's always a new boundary that can be set. There's always something that emotion can tell you about your life. That being said, we are going to talk about discernment today, which helps us feel safe while we're trusting. And discernment is really necessary when it comes to, is this emotion something that is helpful for me, or is it something that I'm like intentionally using to keep myself swimming in something that's painful? Discernment does come into play there, but just know that you need to take that process all the way through to completion, which does include, if you need it, getting support. I want that to be really clear too, that if it's feeling hard, if it's feeling like you're lost, then you really, really, really need to reach out for some support, whether it's from me or from somebody else. You deserve to be supported. That is literally what I am here for. So never hesitate to reach out to me. You are in this group, so you are in this container with me, and it is important to me that all of you are able to be successful in your lives. So please use the support that's available to you here. That's emotional alchemy. After emotional alchemy, the next step is setting boundaries. Again, it leads you into boundary setting because there's always a boundary that can be set, or a new action that can be chosen, or something new to learn about your life through the emotional alchemy process. The way we talked about setting boundaries in here was really about knowing internally that you deserve to set boundaries, that you deserve to say the way that you want things to be. You deserve to ask for what you want. You deserve to receive what you want. You don't need to just be at the whim of what other people are asking you for. God, I can really see that my video is spotty. So give me a little love or something if you're still with me. Let me know if this video is breaking up, please. Thank you. So boundaries. And trust is a hugely important piece of making that work. So that's why we're really coming back to trust here, is because when I review and think back about all of the things that we've worked on, trust is so deeply required, not only to make all of this work. Thank you, my love. I assume that means that I'm coming through clearly. Thank you so much. Not only is trust required to really wrap all of this up and help us move through these steps over and over and over again, even when it gets really hard, but it's required for us to take it to the next level. And I'll just say that the next level from this is really the new service that I've been speaking about, which is called the surrender strategy. In here, we've been cultivating a kind of magnetism so that you're in alignment with what you're working towards and who you are at your core. And you know how to bring yourself back into that alignment over and over and over again. The surrender strategy really takes it to the next step to say, okay, now that we're in alignment and we're receiving the opportunities in our world, we can see them coming in. How do we actually take those opportunities and create solid things in the world that we want? How do we receive those opportunities, use them for what is available to us through those opportunities, and create something that's real in our life? Trust is a huge part of being able to surrender. It's a huge part of letting go of our control on the circumstance. And guys, at the end of the day, letting go of control is always going to be one of those make or break kind of moments. At the end of the process, when you're this close to really getting what you want, and there are fears coming up, and you're not sure about taking that action, and you're not sure if this is the right thing, being able to say, I trust that whatever comes out of this is going to help me. Whether it's a mistake in hindsight or whether it turns out to be the best thing in the world, I trust that my process is going to bring me a step farther than where I am right now. I trust that this is all going to come full circle. It's like a trust fall. Sometimes we really need to be able to trust fall and know that we set things up already. We've taken action consistently in a way that's aligned with who we are and what we're working towards. And we get to just relax, let go of our control of everything that happens in our lives, and just trust, surrender to the universe so that it's able to bring us exactly what we've been working towards. It's not without action, not without action at all, but trust is so deeply required. I hope you guys are seeing how important this is. And I will also say here that it's always a choice. You do not need to listen to what I'm saying. I assume that you value what I'm saying to you because you're here. You've literally invested time and money and energy in this. But you always get to choose and say, you know what? I don't want to trust. I don't want to trust. Or I don't want to go through this process of mental wholeness, or I don't want to do XYZ. You have that choice. Always, 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 always. But what we're talking about today is for people who are ready to make that choice to trust. And why do I make the choice to trust? Personally, I make the choice to trust because it feels good. Simple as that. It feels better to trust than it does to be constantly thinking that everything and everyone is out to get me. It feels a lot better to trust than it does to think that people are going to screw me over. And I have thought that before. I have been the least trusting person in a lot of times in my life. I've been angry at the universe. And honestly, have been tested in my trust recently, fully tested over and over and over again. And I have just learned that trusting brings me through to the other side a lot quicker than resisting and not trusting. And it allows me to feel much better along the way. So that's why I make the choice to trust. Why do you make the choice to trust? I know that there are some people in here who do feel very strongly connected to religion, and there's a lot of trust that's inherent in a belief system like that, trusting in your beliefs. And we all have different takes on trust. So I would love to know, what is your take on trust and why do you choose to trust? Feel free to share that in the comments now or at any point throughout, because I would love to hear from you. And this is not just my group, by the way. This is all of our space here. I consider all of you experts in this now. Really, truly, I consider you experts not only in your skill set, but in this path of mental wholeness, because to get to this point, you've needed to make it your own. So please always feel free to share your experiences in here, whether it be in the video threads or in separate posts, because what you have to say could very likely help somebody else. And I just appreciate you all being here so much. So trust is both built and tested. This is something I wanted to talk to you about today. And it can be said for every bit of the mental wholeness content that we've been through, that the reason we're working on it now in a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis, like, yeah, it's fantastic that, you know, all this stuff has definitely had an impact in every single one of your lives. I know it because I've heard what you've been through. I've heard about the opportunities that have come in for you. I've heard about the shifts that you've experienced. Every single person in here has accomplished amazing things throughout the course of learning about this. 100%. And that's fantastic. These concepts, these foundations can help you feel better even when you're feeling good. When it really makes a difference is when shit hits the fan. These are the moments when your trust is being tested, okay? The reason why we need to prioritize practicing these things all the time is so that when things do get tough, we have a strong practice to fall back on that supports us. It's foundational. It helps us be consistent. The key to consistency isn't just being great most of the time. The key to consistency is how you deal with the challenges that come up. Because let me tell you what, any big goal that you have in your life that you want to accomplish, your trust is going to be tested. Your commitment is going to be tested. You are going to have challenges come up. Bigger goals, bigger failures. Let me tell you what, And that's another time that you get to choose. Do I stick with what I care about, what I've been building here, or do I give up? It's always a choice. And what this is meant to do is to help you stick with it. Because the people who are the most successful in life are not people who have never failed. They are people who failed horribly and just continued putting one foot in front of the other and never gave up. That requires an intense amount of trust. An intense amount of trust. And that is why this is what we're talking about here today, why it's so important. So let's talk about discernment. Because I think that a lot of times the reason that people don't trust is because they've been given reasons not to trust in the past. We often perceive it as we've been given reasons not to trust other people. We've been given reasons not to trust certain situations. At the end of the day, if you feel out of control of that situation, like if you literally feel like you have no impact on that situation at all, then you need to look internally. I would bet money 99 times out of 100 that any trust issues that are going on in the world around you, anything that has happened that has told you you couldn't trust your surroundings or the people around you, has some kind of root internally. And if you need help sorting that out, I would go back to the beliefs module to really trace back when you learned that you couldn't trust, or reach out for support. Again, please. Reaching out for support is a huge part of trust. And it's a huge, important part of what is available to you after this in the surrender strategy and building intimate relationships, building collaborative relationships, building an impact and a legacy in the world. That's what's on offer after you have this foundation of mental wholeness. I don't know if you just heard, but my dog farted. Comedy break. God, what was I saying? Cronus's butt interrupted my train of thought. I totally lost it. Oh yeah, I was telling you to trace it back, either go into the beliefs module or reach out for support. Support is an essential part of trust. It's kind of like a trust fall every time you reach out for support, isn't it? You have to trust the other person to be there to support you, to not reject you. You have to trust in the process that's going on. Trusting that you are supported is a huge part of this, and you're never going to feel supported if you're not reaching out to the support that exists. Which we're not talking specifically about support today, but I really just want you to see that they are connected. And I would dare to say that if you have a problem reaching out for support, then there is probably some issue with trust underlying that. I would really imagine that that's the case. Another thing that stops people from getting support is the idea that they should be able to do it themselves, which I can still trace back to trust, because it's not trusting in the universe. It's not trusting in the process. It's not trusting in the fact that everything is happening for your good when you feel like you need to control everything and do everything yourself. Because we aren't in this alone. Nobody does it alone. So that was a little bit of a worm trail. But discernment is so important because part of what leads us to those experiences where our trust is broken is a lack of discernment, which is so important. So I would like to break it down into discernment internally, which is really the most important thing for what we're talking about today. And there's also external discernment, which is about picking who is in your support network, like physically. You're always going to have the universe or God or however you choose to understand all that is, like that is always in your support network, which our experience later is going to help you plug into that sensation a bit. But actually choosing the people who you surround yourself with requires a great amount of discernment. Choosing the appropriate opportunities to move forward on, the appropriate choices to make requires a large amount of discernment. And I would call that all external discernment. Like you're picking who's on your ship and who's off the boat, right? You're discerning who is good for you, who's not, who can I trust and who don't I feel able to trust, and that is okay. You don't have to trust everyone. I'm not suggesting today that we just move blindly forward into that naive world of trusting everyone, though. I have been there. I have done that. I am a very trusting person, and I make excuses for people to treat me poorly, which is a boundaries issue, and I make excuses for the people who break my trust. In the past, I haven't always used it to then discern and set boundaries about who I want in my life and who I don't. I've just kind of trusted very openly. And that is something that I'm actually scaling back on at this point in my life. And how do we scale back on it? By this internal discernment, which is about coming into yourself, getting an understanding of what your body is telling you. So we're going back to body buzz, right? Going back to body buzz here, and the connection that you feel with your body, using the information that's coming up in your body and in your, thought process and just everything that's going on in your energy field, all of the things that we've learned about your emotional landscape, using all of that information to discern those external discernments. That it's, we're like coming in internal, right? But there's also a piece of internal discernment when it comes to figuring out, and this is a really, really tricky thing that I've not heard a ton of people talk about. I have a video that I made on this probably a year and a half ago now, which is about discerning a pattern from intuition. So, and it's complicated. Like, I wish that I could give you a quick and easy answer about how to discern what is a pattern and what is an intuition. And I haven't found an easy answer yet. I will certainly let you know if I do find one, but practice of what I'm about to share with you about how to build trust internally is really the best answer I've found. Not only building trust internally, but also building a knowledge about who you are and what your patterns are, so that you can spot the pattern while you're in it, as opposed to just acting in it blindly. And that takes practice and it takes time. It does. It takes time. I've been working on this stuff for years. Years and years and years and years prior to creating this for you. So stick with it. A great video resource on identifying your patterns is How to Spot Self-Sabotage Before It Sinks Your Ship. I've certainly shared that in here before. So if trust feels like an issue for you, if some of this is resonating with you, I would definitely suggest revisiting the Spotting Self-Sabotage video. It's really good for that. And I do try and share an exercise about identifying your patterns, because that piece of discernment, it's really important to be able to know, like, when am I getting an intuitive hit that I need to take this action? And when is this action me falling into a pattern that exists already? Really, the only way to get really good at discerning that is through practice and knowing yourself very deeply. And trust comes into it, because this is not a perfect thing that we're undertaking. Like, you aren't going to be perfect at this. Nobody is going to be perfect at this. I am not perfect at this, because when you nail one thing and you're like, oh, I'm definitely not falling into that pattern again, I got it, another pattern is going to show itself. Plain and simple. You are always going to have more to work through. So we all make mistakes at this. It's always going to be a learning process. And again, it can be a trust building endeavor in itself to learn, hey, I can overcome this. I can get through it even when I make mistakes. That builds trust with yourself, right? As long as you're not beating yourself up and talking crap about how everything sucks for you, like, I'm sorry, it's, it's a choice about how to take the information and move forward from those times when you fall back into your patterns, because you will. And it's a practice to recognize that quicker and quicker and quicker, which you will. As you practice, you will learn how to notice it faster and faster and faster when you're in that pattern, as opposed to when you're getting an intuitive hit. When you practice everything that we've gone through here, all of those modules that I already recapped earlier, but I'll just say acceptance, body buzz, beliefs, clarity, energy, emotional alchemy, and boundaries. When you go through that process, usually even just the first, the A, B's, and C's, once I get those ducks in a row, I feel aligned. When you are feeling great and aligned, like those, or if you're feeling really relaxed and surrendered, which comes with being able to trust, right? It's kind of moving into the next segment. But when you're practicing all of this and you're feeling the flow and you're feeling good, it's fair to say that those actions that you receive are going to be intuitions. When you're feeling one of those familiar old emotions like frustration or sadness or heaviness, or you're feeling resistance, it's very likely you're in a pattern. So the way you feel is a great way to discern between those two things as well. Hopefully that is helpful. But I just want you to know how important discernment is with trust, because we're not talking about trusting everything blindly and being like naive to the fact that mistakes happen and there are untrustworthy people, plain and simple. There are people with motives that are going to try and take advantage of you, or there are people who might just plain be hurtful. There are people that might just plain be hurtful because they're stuck in their own patterns. And they aren't trustworthy because they're not acting from a place of connection and collaboration with you. They're acting from a place of stuckness and what they're going through. Like, that's not somebody to trust wholeheartedly in that moment. Discernment is a hugely important topic here, so that you can feel safe to trust, so that you can feel protected by yourself internally when you're discerning about what's going on inside of you and what's going on around you, and you're using all of that information to discern what actions to take, like that in itself builds a sense of trust. So hopefully that's making sense to you. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. If there are any questions coming up, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and then we're going to move right into how to build trust internally. We've already touched on it a little bit, or a lot of it. I hope it's helpful so far. If you have questions coming up, please put them in the comments. Again, if you're watching the replay, tag me in your comments and questions so that you know I will see them. Then we're going to move into deliberately building trust within ourselves, and a very brief exercise to help you connect to that feeling right away. Hopefully we will still get through it in the next 20 minutes. We will see. Okay. I do not see any questions coming up, which is a-okay. We will storm ahead, keep moving forward. So the biggest way to build trust internally is to listen to our intuition. That's it, we're done. No, I'm just kidding. But that sentence is everything. The biggest way to build trust internally is to listen to your intuition, to listen to your body, to take action on the feedback that you're getting. Plain and simple. So there are a lot of ways to look at this, and I want you to find the way that resonates most deeply for you. But I would like to highlight the different parts of ourselves that are kind of opposites that exist within us. And again, polarity is what we're talking about here-ish. That is another concept that will be covered more thoroughly in the surrender strategy. Some of you here are already in that, which is fantastic. So you will totally have access to more of these conversations. And if you're interested in that, then just let me know. Shoot me a message, leave a comment here. We'll talk about it and see if it's right for you. But there are always two different opposite things that live within us, or two like sides that need to be balanced. This is at the heart of like work-life balance, right? Or just feeling balanced as a human being. So one of the ways that you can look at this is like conscious mind and unconscious mind. That is another thing I talked a lot more about in the spotting self-sabotage video. But the conscious mind is the way that you are like thinking and moving through the world. We are connected in our conscious mind right now. It's what you're currently focused on. It is making judgments about the world around you. It is setting the goals that you want to achieve. The unconscious mind, that's the goal getter. I like this way of thinking about it. The conscious mind is the goal setter. The unconscious mind is the goal getter. And it gets the goals not necessarily specifically the way your conscious mind envisions them happening. It gets the goals that are riding underneath on an energetic level, the way that it's that all of your patterns are coming together, like what you really want, you know, what you really, really want. So like, how can I give an example of this? Relationships are a great example. Like, you could consciously think that you want one thing in a relationship. Like, I want a man who is super sensitive and, you know, does all of these things for me, and, you know, whatever, does XYZ. I really need to come prepared with better examples. I always think of good ones afterwards, but if you need one, just let me know and I'll give you more. But you could think that you want a relationship that has all of these things, when really what you want is the feeling that you think you're going to get from that. It lurks underneath the actual manifestation. Like, there's something that you want in that isn't quite so clear to the eye. The unconscious mind works to bring you that. It doesn't always work to bring you exactly what you think that you want. It works to bring you what you actually want. Whether you're aware of what you actually really want or not is a totally different question. And if you've been going through these modules, there's really not a whole lot to worry about, because you are getting clear about what you really want, what lurks under the surface. You've been working with the body buzz, the clarity, the energetic alignment, you know, the emotional alchemy. So you have a deeper idea of what you want than most other people. It's important to get really clear about what you want and why you want it, because it adds fuel for the unconscious mind to arrange your life and your actions on an unconscious level to bring you that. I'm getting off topic, so I'm going to get back on, but if anybody needs more clarity about that, just let me know. One way to build trust is to relax into the unconscious mind, ask it what it wants, ask it what it needs, and act on that. One way to build trust with the unconscious mind is to make promises to yourself and actually keep them. So here's something to consider. If you have a to-do list that's this long, it has 17,000 different tasks on it, and it's been sitting over on the table for a year, and you're not doing those things, that is going to degrade the trust that you feel for yourself, because you're sending a message that I say I'm going to do something doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to do it. Whether you're aware of that or not, that's the message that you send to the unconscious mind. So then the trust isn't there. A really great method for building trust is to do what you say you're going to do. Period. Do what you say you're going to do. Builds trust. That is a very easy thing to tap into. Very easy thing to tap into, because I can literally say, I'm going to take a drink of water right now. Voila. I have just deepened the trust that I feel for myself, that my unconscious mind feels towards my conscious mind, and vice versa. They're like, okay, we're on the same page. What they're saying they want really is what they actually want. Okay, we can work towards getting that. Great. That's one way to build trust. A couple ways to build trust is deepening the communication between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, consulting with your unconscious mind to get its feedback and follow its guidance, or at least use its guidance to inform what you want to do moving forward. And you can also make it a very deliberate practice to do the things you say you're going to do. And if you're not going to do something, then don't say you're going to do it. Don't say you're going to do it. Something that I'm going to be experimenting with going forward is not really keeping a to-do list, because that to-do list, it can get kind of long. And of course, it's important to do things that you need to do to respond to your people, to, you know, meet deadlines that you have and things like that. But be really deliberate about what you say you're going to do, and make sure if you say you're going to do something that you're actually going to do it. That builds trust. There's also the mind and the body. Okay, so these things, they kind of mirror the conscious mind and unconscious mind. They're all things to be aware of, but the mind and the body. So you already kind of started building trust, or hopefully you did, with Body Buzz, because you connected to your body and you asked it, what do you want right now? What do you want right now, body? And then you did it. You took actual actions to step forward and give your body what it needs. That builds trust with yourself. The emotional alchemy process builds trust when you carry it all the way through to completion, because it says, hey, I'm willing to hear you, unconscious mind, because emotions, they live in our bodies and in our unconscious mind. So it does not breed trust when you're working on shoving that down, okay? When you're working on not looking at that, not thinking about it, not dealing with it, it breeds mistrust within yourself. Plain and simple. When you're willing to give your body and your emotions a voice and actually follow through with taking action according to what you learn, that builds trust. That builds trust, which is very important, okay? There's also like a masculine feminine way that you can look at this, and we all have masculine and feminine parts to ourselves. It's, again, related to the conscious and unconscious minds, related to mind and body. But masculine and feminine are other parts of ourselves that need to communicate with each other so that they can stay in balance. When you make sure that all sides are being heard, and you take everything into consideration before you make choices, it helps build trust with all parts of yourself. You start to get more comfortable, like internally, you know that you're going to take care of yourself. You're not going to leave parts of yourself out to dry and move forward regardless of what they think or not, which is one of my biggest pet peeves about the personal growth industry at this point. And I might change my mind on this later. I always reserve the right to change my mind, and I think that you should too. But there's so much talk about the gremlins that we have, and really, like, screw them. Like, screw the voice that says I suck. Screw the voice that's talking crap to me, whatever. Ignore it and just continue moving forward. Well, let me tell you what, that is still a part of you. And it does have something important to say, which we learned about in acceptance. So we're kind of going back to acceptance here, which was about hearing out all the different aspects of internally how we feel about something, listening to it all, and then making our decisions from that place. A great exercise that is it's a different exercise than the one I told you about in the acceptance video, but it can help you hear out these different parts of yourself, is a writing exercise. So for instance, if there's a part of you that's saying, I'm not doing good enough, or I suck at this, you hear that voice pop up, take a sheet of paper, put a line down the middle. On top of one side, ask that part a question. Hey, voice that says that I suck, what's up? Let that part respond. Write it as a different voice on the other side of the paper. Go back and forth between those two and see what comes up. Usually, especially in the case of a gremlin voice, like one of those that says, I'm not enough, I don't deserve that, or like, you know, you suck, whatever, it usually boils down to that part of you trying to protect you in some way. Or bringing your attention to something that is really helpful to move forward. I think that all parts of ourselves need to be included in the conversation. And the more that we do that, the more we build trust internally with ourselves. So I hope that that's really making sense to you guys. I just gave you some really tangible ways to build trust within yourself. Again, we talked about opening the communication between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. And I don't think I told you specifically how to do that. So really quick, if you want us to connect with your unconscious mind, what you need to do, you can do it right now, is just get a little still. Take a couple deep breaths and ask your unconscious mind a question. Maybe you say, unconscious mind, are you there? And what's the first answer that comes to mind? Go with it. The first answer that comes to mind. It likes speed. It's quick. Okay? During a breakthrough, which is part of the surrender strategy, or I will offer it to you guys. I have actually a special offer for anybody who's in the mental wholeness program who wants to do a breakthrough. Just let me know if you want to do that. It's much more affordable for you guys than it is for somebody who would come to me new. Same goes for the surrender strategy. I have a totally different offer for you guys than for anybody else. It's only available to you. But during a breakthrough, we work specifically with the unconscious mind to rewire patterns, to hear what's coming up. Like during that service, I would intentionally help you reconnect over and over and over again with that part of yourself. So it really helps. It can really help to build that trust. But if you want to connect with your unconscious mind, it's really as simple as taking some deep breaths and asking it a question. And accepting the first answer that comes up, even if it doesn't make that much sense, and rolling with it. Like you could ask your unconscious mind on a scale of 0 to 10, how excited am I feeling right now? And 10 is the first thing that came up into my mind, right? And I have a really good communication with my unconscious mind because I do it all the time. I've made a practice of it. You can use a pendulum if you want. I don't have mine handy right now, or else I would show you. There are all kinds of ways. So if you want more ways to connect with your unconscious mind, let me know. I'm explaining it as one way that you can potentially build trust with yourself is to open the line of communication between conscious mind and unconscious mind, okay? I also said that you can build trust within yourself by listening to your body and what your body needs and wants from you. So asking your body, what would make you feel more comfortable right now? What do you need from me right now? Do you need food? Do you need water? Do you need exercise? Like really opening up the communication and allowing your body's response to guide your action. That builds trust within yourself. It builds a deep trust that you are going to not only listen to your needs, but actually act on them to make sure they're met. I mentioned the emotional alchemy process is a thing that you can do that builds trust with yourself as long as you are truly bringing it through all the way to completion, which includes making new choices based on what you found, okay? Setting new boundaries, learning new lessons, taking action from that place based on what you found in the emotional alchemy process. Or listening to masculine and feminine. Oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes in our society, we have learned to devalue one side of these things, which is the feminine side, the unconscious side, the body. We've learned to not listen to those desires And sometimes it's as simple as our parents told us to shut up when we were kids because we didn't want to do something and we needed to do it. As simple as that, which might have even been good for us at the time. But we coded in our little tiny brains that, okay, I can't have a bodily desire that goes against what the people around me want, or else they're going to be mad at me. They're going to yell at me, or they're going to leave me here. Like, plain and simple. Usually it boils down to something really simple that stopped us from listening openly and acting from that place. But we're all adults now, so we get to choose to listen to that part and meet our own needs as they come up. So hopefully that's clear. I've just given you some really practical ways to build trust internally. Again, I'll just reiterate, this is a huge topic. Building trust internally is a key to feeling really, really trusting, not only in the universe, things happening for your good, trusting in the process, trusting that you're going to move closer to your desires with what you're doing, but trusting other people, trusting the people around you, whether it be people you're collaborating with or whether it be people you're in a relationship with. Those are all really important things that, again, I am happy to help you with. And today we're really talking about the internal trust, which is key, foundational to all of those other things, okay? I also said that trust is built and it is tested. We're working on building trust every single day, whether things are good or bad, whether things are serious or not so serious, so that when the shit hits the fan and our trust is being tested, it is already strong. And your trust will grow stronger through being tested if you have that strong foundation of trust and you hold on to it long enough to see that you are valid and trusting once you get to the other side of that. So like, we're building trust right now. You may or may not have your trust being tested right now. I personally have been having my trust tested a lot lately. It has been a hard few months. And I'm going to tell you guys something. It is not really getting any easier yet. It has been getting harder consistently. There have been more and more things happening. But you know what? I have been doing this for so long that I barely flinch anymore. I say, you know what? I know, because I've done this enough times, I know that something good is waiting for me on the other side of this, as long as I can just make it through, as long as I can keep putting one foot in front of the other, it's going to be okay. That is a strongly rooted foundation of trust. And it is the key to getting through those moments when your trust is being tested. Again, I'm just reiterating the point that we will build trust and it will be tested, especially when we're going after really, really large goals. Your trust will be tested, and you have the choice to either let those challenges make your resolve and your trust stronger, or to give up entirely, which is a shame, in my opinion, a real shame, to put in so much work and then start from scratch by giving everything up rather than persisting on. But it's a choice. It's a valid choice. People make it all the time, every day. I have a feeling that you aren't going to do that if you're here. Thank you. I appreciate you so much, and I'm excited that you're still here. And I'm excited that you're choosing to build trust. And please know, in those moments when your trust is being tested, I am here for you 100%. I mentioned a couple times how important support and feeling supported and being able to connect with support is. It makes it a lot easier to trust when you know that you have support that you can connect to. And that is super important moving into surrender strategy world. Support is clearly important in here as well. But yeah, and we also talked about discernment, both internal discernment, discerning between what is a pattern and what is an intuitive nudge, discerning how to read your body's signs about what's going on in the world around you, learning how to communicate. I've given you a lot of processes about how to do that. That's basically the whole point of this, is to really deeply know yourself, understand yourself, and feel aligned as a person, who you are, what your values are, and what you're working towards. Being able to like read everything that's going on is about internal discernment, and using that information to then discern externally. What opportunities do I say yes to? What do I say no to? What boundaries do I set? What people do I want to have in my support network, and what people don't belong here? That's all external discernment versus internal discernment. And spoiler alert, it's not always easy. Mistakes are going to be made. I spoke to this earlier too, that mistakes will always be made. This is not a clean and simple process all the time in practice. Another reason why support is so important, especially with that discernment piece, the internal discernment. When you are in a pattern, especially if you're new at this, it can be really, really hard to see that you are in a pattern, and it is really, really helpful to have support at that moment that you can connect to and say, hey, what is going on? Like, can you help me see this more clearly? Because I don't feel like I'm seeing it very clearly. Anyway. That's what we've talked about. And then I gave you some skills for building trust. Again, communicating conscious and unconscious mind, opening that flow of communication, and being willing to listen and take action, taking consistent action, saying that you're going to do something, then actually doing it, as opposed to saying you're going to do something and then not doing it. That degrades trust over time. Listening to your mind and your body, allowing your body's desires and needs to inform the actions that you're taking. And also the emotional alchemy process builds trust when you allow your emotional experience to guide the actions, choices, boundaries that you set moving forward. Allowing your masculine and feminine to be balanced, allowing your creative, feminine, flowing, like relaxing, restorative side, surrendering, is kind of a feminine idea, balancing that with the masculine, action taking, structured systems, and letting those two inform each other and work together, as opposed to letting one overpower the other all the time. Like making sure that both have their needs being met is a way to build trust. And that I've basically just summarized probably multiple times everything that we went through today. So if there are any questions that are coming up, please put them in the comments and tag me if you're watching the replay and leaving a comment. And before we leave, I'm just going to offer a few simple prompts that will help you connect to this feeling right now. So take a couple deep breaths and get really centered in your body. Feel roots growing out through the bottoms of your feet or through your tailbone if you're sitting on the floor like me, into the ground. Get really rooted, get really still. Take a few deep breaths. And from that place, I would like you to connect, if you can, to the sensation of your heart beating. Can you feel your heart beating in your chest when you try to connect with it? or even just connecting to the energy of your heart. And notice how your heart beats without you telling it to beat. Your heart keeps beating without your telling it to beat. And if it needs help beating, it tells you about it with a sensation. Notice how you've been breathing this whole time we've been together. Notice how you can intentionally deepen your breath when you think about it, and how also it continues. Your lungs continue to breathe whether you're telling them to or not. Notice how your eyes see. Without any effort from you. They just see. Notice how your skin feels without any effort on your part. Notice within yourself, have you been cultivating trust with this body that has carried you up into this point? How is that relationship going? I would love you to ask your body in this moment if there's any action that you could take or anything that you could do, any need that you could meet that would help you build more trust, that would help you gain your body's trust right now. Make a note of it. Take action on that. Take action on that today. I would also love you to imagine your desires. The desires that you have for your future, for your relationships, for your professional life. The desires for how you want to feel. Bring up some sensations, some sights, some smells, some feelings that are associated with those desires for you. Really picture it. And from that place, really feel into how supported you are by the universe right now. Imagine that the universe is conspiring on your behalf to bring these desires to you. Imagine that those desires are being brought to you with or without your explicit action. The universe is working to bring them to you right now. And on that note, we're going to end. Thank you for tolerating me and my extremely loud dog here in the background. He's such a pain in my butt sometimes, but I love his handsome face. Look at him. I'm sure that now he's going to be super quiet. But please feel free to leave your questions and comments here, okay? Reach out, leave posts in the group. I'm more than happy to help you guys implement this. I love all of you so much. Thank you for your time today, and I hope we will talk soon. Bye.